Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological site. I'm going to be talking about transit Mercury, making a square, opposition, or inconjunct aspect to one's natal Mercury. Now, when you have transits that involve Mercury, well, it can involve communications, assimilating information, mobility, siblings, cousins, neighbors, analysis, and when you have this transit of Mercury, basically making an adverse aspect to your own natal Mercury, well, it may manifest in the communications, assimilating information, mobility, siblings, cousins, neighbors, analysis, and it may actually conflict with communications. It could be that maybe you're trying to communicate with one person, and there might be somebody else that wants to talk to you maybe simultaneously. If the zodiac signs Cancer and Capricorn are involved as an example, it could be people from your home life want to talk to you, but there might be some business, career-related communications that may be conflicting with this. Now, keep in mind this transit doesn't really last for an overly protracted period. The thing is, that you are going to get a number of them during the year, and they can have a certain significance. So it's just important to remember that they may not last that long. They last longer than the moon, of course, because the transits of the moon is, they're only, going to last about, as I've stated in previous videos, about 10 hours on average. These can have a little more significance, though, because they can last a little bit longer than that. Now, getting back to the, how this transit may manifest, it could also be a time where, Mercury is also our rational mind, and Mercury is connected with assimilating information. Maybe there's difficulty in thinking rationally, which might cause some problems in trying to assimilate and gather information at this time. It can also be, it might be, if there's any mobility issues, it might be a little bit harder to articulate or verbalize them at this time, more so than usual. It could be that maybe siblings or cousins or neighbors might need some assistance with some kind of mobility or local transportation, and it might be causing you, some kind of agitation at this time, and or those people might be even getting in the way of some communications that you're involved in. It can be with people, it can be something you're doing on your own, I would say, such as writing, for example. It can be a situation too. I mean, remember that Mercury again is connected with siblings, cousins, and neighbors. And when you have this transit of Mercury, again, basically making an adverse aspect to your own natal Mercury, well, in some cases it could be siblings, as an example, might be conflicting with issues you may have with neighbors or cousins, or it could be the other way around. Um, the thing about this too is there might be difficulty in thinking rationally enough to analyze a certain situation. Say if Scorpio, is involved, it might be trying to figure out something with locksmithing or insurance or some kind of complex problem. Pisces involved, it might be something very like a convoluted trip. For example, Mercury is connected with short journeys and local transportation. Um, it can be a situation too. When you look at Mercury, as far as anatomically speaking, Mercury is associated with the hands, arms, nerves, breathing, lungs. And the thing about this is it might be, in some cases, it may manifest in getting news about this that might not be overly auspicious at this time. It can be, maybe there's, being, overly, mobile, running around a lot. Maybe it's something that might be causing some breathing issues in some isolated instances. Maybe siblings, cousins, or neighbors, maybe figuratively speaking, getting on your nerves, and even people perhaps from your early education, because Mercury can be associated with that as well. Another thing too, and again, Mercury can be connected with the rational mind. So it might be harder to communicate rationally at this time, more so than usual. Say if Sagittarius is involved, say your natal Mercury is in Sagittarius, it might be over religious or philosophical beliefs. It can be something with sports or publishing or religion, higher education. Um, and The thing is, at this time as well, you might also, I mean, Mercury is connected with thieves as well. So in isolated cases, it can be a situation where you might need to be a little bit more careful and prudent if you're walking. I mean, Mercury is connected with short journeys and mobility, local transportation. If you're doing a walk in your neighborhood, it might be a time where you need to be a little bit extra careful and prudent regarding possible thieves, especially if it's in an area where theft is prevalent. Uh, Mercury is associated with early education as well. So it might be a time where, if you're somebody, you know, if you're trying to communicate about something, maybe you even learn from early education, it might be harder to do it at this time. Maybe if you're trying to contact somebody that you knew during this period of your life, somebody that was prominent in your early education, um, that could be present more difficulty than usual. Now, Mercury again is associated with short journeys, local transportation, mobility. Now, another way this transit may be expressed, it might be if you're counting on someone to help you, with a short journey, giving you a ride somewhere, it might be a little bit harder to come by. It can be, if Aquarius is involved, it might be a friend or an acquaintance perhaps that you know. Cancer can be, if there's in the zodiac sign Cancer is involved, it might be a home or family member. Uh, Now also too, now another way that this transit may manifest, it can be about siblings, cousins, neighbors, may conflict with short journeys at this time. It can be maybe their needs are going to take precedence over this for you, or maybe even your train of thought. It might be where they might be somewhat of a diversion or distraction to your train of thought at this time, your thinking process. Now, say for example, if the natal Mercury is in Pisces, it could be maybe you're trying to solve something very cryptic or even a cryptogram puzzle, or you might even be involved in the convoluted short journeys with a lot of winding, twisting roads. And maybe these people might be trying to reach out to you during this time, and you're having difficulty in concentrating on the task at hand. Now, also too, another way this transit may manifest, it could be local transportation issues may cause difficulty, perhaps with people in your early education. It could be siblings, cousins, neighbors, people that are prominent in your short journeys even. It might be, let's say for example, if transit Mercury is in Capricorn, it could be just general obstructions in the road. It might be some just general delays. Um, and also at this time, when you're talking about, again, transit Mercury basically making an adverse aspect to your own natal Mercury, things that people may say at this time may be a little bit, might be misconstrued, may be ambiguous or cryptic. Say if it's transit Mercury is in Taurus and the natal Mercury is in Scorpio and there's an opposition aspect involved, well, it might be expressed in something very basic that may be said, may be looked at more deeply than it needs to be looked at. And also to, as I reiterate, thieves, which of course is associated with Mercury, may adversely affect your own short journeys at this time. Again, it may be time to take more precautions. And, if you have to take a walk somewhere, especially, you're walking as far as mobility goes and you're not as protected, say, as if you were in a car, as an example. Say if transit Mercury is in Aries, as an example, it can be thieves that might be somewhat volatile or ones that carry firearms, which most of them do, but it might increase that propensity. Hold on a moment, people. Now, I'm sorry about that, but anyway. Now, another way this transit may be expressed, it could be issues. I mean, keep in mind, Mercury anatomically is connected with the arms, the hands, the nerves, lungs, breathing. Now, say there might these one or more of these things might affect issues. I mean, or I should say, trying to do things with communication, such as writing or even speaking. I mean, if you have breathing issues, of course, can give difficulty in speaking, but issues with the arms or the hands, say the hands especially, can make writing problematic. So, and say if transit Mercury is in Aquarius, it might be very erratic or sporadic issues with what I was just talking about as far as what Mercury is associated with anatomically speaking. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay